Okay, this is the third video about Lost Adventures, and in this one I'm going to explain how the temple works. So the way we resolve the temple is we start with everyone having entered the temple, and we move this marker from left to right. Each space that it lands on, we do the thing that is associated with that space, and we continue resolving until we reach the end of the track. Now there are three kinds of spaces. The first is called a gate. These are not in order, but the gate, you can see if your pawn is to the left of the gate at the time that this marker reaches the gate, then you take a curse. The second kind of space is called a test. There are two spaces that look like that. In this particular temple, there's one on the black card here, and then there's the Grail Room, a yellow card over here. For the test, you're going to use the information you've acquired and usually write down an answer to whatever the prompt is. This one asks which lesser relic opens the door. So if you happen to have that, you get to scoot through the door and get to move a little bit ahead. In the Grail Room over here, it is asking you which is the true Grail. There's 10 Grails, and you know perhaps some of the characteristics, or maybe you've seen all the characteristics, so you're going to write down which is the true Grail, and then we all reveal and see who's right, and you get to scoot ahead a little bit if you're right. The other spaces are called perils, and this is where most of the action in the temple happens, and that is with the perils. So I'm going to go through an example of how we resolve those. It's a three-step process, but it's pretty simple. The first is we are going to flop out as many penalty cards as we have players, and then in reverse order based on where we are in the temple track. So right now yellow is furthest back, and so yellow is going to pick first. So let's say yellow is the person with cards on the left here. So that the first player is going to pick one of the penalty cards and put some black cubes on it, and then incur the penalty associated with that card immediately. So in this case it's hubris, so I have to take 2 hubris. And now purple has no choice. Purple is going to take this card and maybe put 4 black cubes on it, let's say. And then purple is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 on the time track because the penalty is time. Okay, after that we reveal the peril, and it is fear. Okay, so now we're going to add to our initial bid the cards we have in our display that have that icon on them. And again, your leftmost 3 cards count double. So to yellow's initial bid of 2, I'm going to add 1, 2, 3 for a total of 5 for yellow. Over here for purple, I have 4, and then I have 5, 6, 7. So purple has a total bid of 7. Now I have to also consider, the enemy here. The enemy has a base bid of 1, because that's what this marker here says. But then I have to add to that the cards in Berlin that happen to match this symbol, which I can tell you there are 2. So the enemy has a total bid of 1 plus 2 is 3. Okay, so the enemy is at 3. Yellow is at 5. And purple is at 7. So purple has the highest rank. And for the resolution, we're going to look at the rank card. And it says that highest rank moves 3 spaces. So purple is going to go 1, 2, 3. And then second position is yellow, and that is 2 spaces. And third position is the enemy at 1 space there. Now there's a couple of things to note about the resolution, or about the resolution of movement specifically. There are a couple of spaces like this one here that lets you get a green cube. This one lets you purge a curse. You can go out of your way to land on one of those spaces, that's fine. There are also some spaces that have an explosion icon. If you're the first to pass that, and you have an explosion card in your possession, which yellow does in this case, you can take a hubris to basically blow up the bridge behind you so another person can't pass that. And then finally there's also a secret passage space or 2. There's one, and you can take a hubris to scoot across that if you have a secret passage icon, which in this case purple does. Okay, after we have all faced all of our perils, we end the game by resolving the final hubris challenge. So we go to, we've reached this space, and now we have to roll dice. And we're going to do it, let's say this is how things ended up. So we're going to do it in reverse order. So the person who is furthest to the left is going to be the first to roll. And you're rolling 2 dice, the white and the black, and you're going to compare them to the things you have thusly. The white die you compare to your green cubes, and just as it was in the encounter system, if this number is equal or less than the number of green cubes I have, then I purge that many hubris. So 3 is less than 4, so I get to eliminate 3 hubris. The black die is compared to the curses that I've acquired, and if it's equal or less than the number of curses I have, then I have to discard that many black cubes. So let's say I had 4 curses and I rolled a 4, I have to discard 4 black cubes. If I run out of black cubes and am unable to pay a black cube that I'm required to pay, I am eliminated from the game. Otherwise, I keep rolling and I roll 5 times, and if by the end of the 5th roll, or before the 5th roll, at any time I've gotten rid of all of my hubris, then I'm safe. If I reach the end of the 5th roll and I still have hubris left, then my face has melted off and I'm also eliminated from the game. After the final hubris challenge, the player who is the furthest along the track and has not been eliminated is the winner. However, it is possible that if the enemy has made it further along than any player, then no player will win. So the final hubris challenge is essentially the game's core balancing act, because I know I need to acquire green cubes during the map phase to be able to get rid of hubris, but how many do I need? Well, it depends on how many hubris I'm going to take, and also how many curses I'm going to take, because curses sap my life, and if I don't have very many of those, maybe I'll get 5 rolls, but if I have a few curses, maybe I'll die before I get 5 rolls, and I want a lot of green cubes to get rid of hubris even earlier than my 5th roll. So there's this dynamic balance you have to strike. It takes maybe a game or 2 to really get a good feel for it, but the key thing is, winning the game is moving furthest across this track, so you don't want to give your opponents, any more room to maneuver than you can afford. So you want to bid aggressively, but not too aggressively. And it's a challenge figuring out what that balance is. But that is how you resolve the temple and the final hubris challenge. And with that, you should know everything you need to be able to play the game.